Welcome and thanks for tagging along with me on this ride where we jump from the NES to the Sega Genesis and transition into 16 bits. Does that make this game any better? No. We're not only making the jump to the Sega Genesis with the game, but also the Game Genie. There are a bunch of websites that say they have an infinite lives code for the Sega Genesis version of Bart vs. the Space Mutants, but this is the infinite lives code that you want, not that other one, because all that does is it resets the game once you get touched by an enemy. So this is the infinite lives code that you want. By the game's graphics alone, it's a major upgrade from the NES version, but the gameplay is not a whole lot better. For the most part, the layout of the game is the same, but the way you select items and navigate the menu is different, so that takes a little getting used to if you're making the jump from the NES. The removal of some of the purple colored objects in the first stage take just a little more precision, like scaring away this bird. In the NES version you could just stand on the window ledge and scare it away, but here you gotta hit it dead on, and I do it from this spot and that usually works for me. For the most part, making your quota in each level is the same as in the NES. One thing I didn't mention in the last video is if you jump on enough aliens masquerading as humans and spell out your family member's name, that particular family member will help you in the boss fight, but they don't really do a heck of a whole lot. Be sure to have those X-ray goggles on before you jump on a human and make sure that they are an alien before you jump them, otherwise you take damage. Here's another trick I didn't show you before. If you come to this part outside of the retirement home, blow the whistle and Grandpa throws you some coins. Though the graphics are much improved from the NES version, one thing that suffers in the Genesis version is the sound. There's no sound effects in the boss fights aside from Bart jumping. In the NES version there were, and at the end of the stage, the NES version had sound effects for when your score was tallying up, but in the Genesis, it's silent. I don't like the music soundtrack for either the NES or the Genesis version, but I like the Genesis music even less. The jumping and platforming is slightly more competent here on the Genesis, but not by a whole lot. The control is still very slippery, and it's loaded with cheap deaths. One thing they got really stingy with here is your time limit. I did not get killed once on the NES by the time limit, but here I got timed out several times. This game is hard enough without it having a time limit.
Beat my shorts, man.
It's really annoying to get so far into a stage and make it through a whole lot of treacherous platforming just to get killed and have the game set you so far back that you have to do it all over again. And it's even worse without the Game Genie, because once you get a game over, you have to start from level 1 again. About an hour into each session, video capturing with EasyCap, it seemed to struggle keeping up with the audio, so if it's out of sync, please forgive that. This might be the very last time I video capture with EasyCap. Here on the Genesis, I made it to the nuclear power plant, which is the final stage. In this level, you gotta collect all the nuclear rods and bring them down to the basement. You also have to get each member of the Simpson household down to that basement, but I'll let you guys figure out how to do that. One thing that confused and befuddled me in this stage is I thought I was missing one rod, so I spent over an hour looking for that one nuclear rod. Turns out I needed to pull Maggie into the door and take her down to the basement so that everybody would be down there and foil the aliens' plans. I figured that one out by complete accident. Gosh, this game is annoying. To the displeasure of the Space Mutants, we have foiled their plans and beat the game. And Bart earns a spot on Mount Rushmore on the endgame screen. Yay, I'm so happy for you, Bart. Well, that concludes this episode of the Straight Edge Game Room. After this dreadful experience, it's going to be a while before I play any more Simpsons games. Nah, some other time. I'm gonna wrap it up in my canzones. Save it for later.